Welcome to Section 420, Talkin Yankees, a podcast. Well, he's back. Gerrit Cole returns to the major leagues for the first time since the 2024 World Series Game 5 there, where he kind of forgot to cover first base. But nevertheless, we'll take the good news. Gerrit Cole pitching great, pitching actually better than you can imagine there. 6 shutout innings against the Tampa Bay Rays. The only problem is now the Yankees in a bad offensive funk. The Yankees end up dropping the game there, so it kind of puts a dimmer on the return. But we'll try to keep it positive here. Obviously, Gerrit Cole back for the Yankees and over the long haul. That's good news there. So we'll get into his numbers there and stats, and just looking ahead and kind of figure also what's going on with this team with the offense. And also some moves there. Obviously, had to make some way. Obviously, with Cabral coming back from the IL as well as Cole returning. A few guys had to be optioned down. Obviously, make some room there. So we'll get into the whole thing, get you caught up on the roster, all that stuff there. But before we get started, make sure to subscribe to this podcast. Section 420 Talkin Yankees, the podcast, wherever you get your favorite podcast. And there's also a YouTube version of the show. Go to YouTube, search for Section 420 Talkin Yankees, and subscribe there as well. So this is the Friday night game we've been waiting for, fittingly against Tampa, who the Yankees were chasing at the time. And the Yankees kind of, after getting a good start off on the homestand against Toronto, winning the first 2 games, they obviously dropping the last 2. Both very close scoring games. Obviously, got good starts from both Schlittler and Rendon, so really wasn't on the starting pitching. But obviously, this offense now has fallen to a funk, and that carried over into the first Tampa game as well. But for Gerrit Cole, the man of the hour, taking the mound in the major leagues. We know he's been rehabbing the minors, but this is now back on the major league level there. Just about as good as you could imagine there. Going 6 innings. Now, he threw a total of 72 pitches. It's kind of what I expected. I said maybe they'll let him go up to 85, but 72 pitches across 6 innings, I think that's more than economical. And I guess maybe you didn't really want to push him too much after that. So, people might say, wow, he could have stuck up a little longer. I know the Yankee bullpen ended up blowing a little later in the game there, but you're not going to have him come out for the first game back and stretch him out for 7-8 innings. That's just not going to happen there. It's up to the offense to actually score a couple of runs there. So if you want to blame anyone on that one, blame the offense. But back to Cole, 72 pitches, 50 of them were for strikes. Only gave up 2 hits, wasn't pinpoint sharp. He was very sharp in his double and triple A starts there, but did have 3 walks in the game. But again, Tampa's also a good team. You're not going up against minor leaguers. Only 2 strikeouts, but the fastball just looked like they had life to it. That's really the more important thing. Everyone's looking at the radar gun. Yeah, he was hit 99, but if it's dull and not spinning and not getting any spin rate on, it's kind of meaningless. I mean, the ball was kind of almost looked like Cam Schlitt a little bit, just exploding in the zone. Just the last second cut right, cut in, cut up, cut down. And of course, working with Wells there, who's a good framer, possibly sneaking, snagging a few strikes there. But even with the ABS system there, you still gotta have to be a little slick, kind of quote unquote steal some strikes there. So that all looked good. It's just unfortunate this Yankee offense has really gone into the taking again against Nick Martinez. You may remember back from the Boston days. Nothing really great there. So. Kind of head scratching, and again, a lot of Yankees is not doing well, especially Judge. Now, a little good news, I'll put a precursor after this, and I kind of also discussed it on the most recent YouTube episode. The Yankees schedule after this Tampa series at home gets significantly easier, so I think they'll be able to bottle up some wins, and I think you'll start seeing some guys like Aaron Judge really start heating up finally. There's a couple more guys that can also do to really heat up. Wells finally getting a home run, which he really needed it badly. So I think there's a lot of good news for the Yankees coming up on the road trip. But getting back to Cole, this is about as good as you could expect the way he looks right now in mid-season form. So if this is the Gerrit Cole we're getting the rest of the way, or at least for most of the rest of the way, looking good for the Yankees. And as you just kind of maybe just counting the weeks until you finally get Max Fried back, and hopefully he's fine as well from his bone bruise. And then you just have those 2 guys at the top rotation. As I mentioned before, you got a good start from Carlos Rendon finally. Again, the first 2 weren't that great. But I almost think Rendon's finally back to, when he was at his best kind of last season, when he had a good season for the Yankees after his first 2024 campaign. It wasn't exactly the greatest there. But nevertheless, it's good to see a good bounce back from him as well. And I mentioned before, again, the Yankees had to clear up a little room there. So Cabral coming back, as true to his word, from the 10-day IL. Now, we know Volpe was up here, so the Yankees had to make some decisions. So they decided actually to option Spencer Jones back down to AAA. And it kind of makes sense here. You like to see him up more there, but, into 10 games, only hit 167, no home runs, had just 4 hits sprayed around, 2 RBIs. Now, did have a stolen base as well. We saw a good sliding play there in Milwaukee, but unfortunately, not hitting enough there to merit keeping him up. And obviously, you got to make some moves in terms of when you have Cabral coming back, as well as with Cole with the pitching. Also, Giovanni Cruz also being optioned down as well, just to make room there. So it looks like the Yankees are going to kind of stick with the whole Cabral/Volpe/Jazz. And as Boone said, it's not going to be a perfect situation. There's even some talks that maybe either Cabral Cabarello or even Volpe. Also might take some grounders at second base there, and maybe give Jazz some time on the bench there, just sort of until he could get his bat going. I know he had a big triple in the game at Tampa as well there, but maybe just give the team a different look. Maybe have Cabarello and Volpe there. Maybe when the team's facing a tough left-hander, and give Jazz the day off, and maybe just gives Jazz a little bit of motivation. Hey, you got to pick it up. He's kind of been hot and cold a little bit, and mostly hasn't been productive as he was last season for the Yankees. We know he was a 30-30 player. We know how he promised 50-50. We know that's going to happen, but at least you thought he would be a 30-30 player again. Again, still has the speed and overall getting good defense, stuff like that, but obviously he still has to pick it up more with the hitting, so maybe they figured that will light a fire under him a little bit by taking some of his playing time away. And for the Yankees, they got to sort of get it going with the offense. I think after this Tampa series, things get much easier for them. 3 games in Kansas City. I say Kansas City, several games on the 500, not having a good season. Then go to Cleveland. Cleveland's doing okay, top there in the American League Central, but the Yankees have kind of owned the Guardians for the past 30 years, which I kind of mentioned on the most recent YouTube episode. Then they go to the Athletics. Now, the Athletics now, again, kind of leading the West there, but they're barely a 500 team. Again, they gave the Yankees a run for money, took 2 out of 3 at the stadium, so I think the Yankees owe them one. I have a good feeling about them. If they get off to a good southern road trip, maybe, against Kansas City and Cleveland there, and kind of take that momentum into the Athletics. Then they come home against 3 against Boston. We know Boston's been struggling with their troubles, and then get Cleveland again, another 3 games at home. So you have a stretch there of 15 games against teams that are either struggling, or again, in the case of Cleveland, the Yankees have had a good track record against historically, no matter what the team is, who it is, just the uniform. So I think the Yankees will have an opportunity to get themselves right, and the Yankees maybe got a little bit of a break as well. So it looks like the second game against Tampa was postponed again due to rain. They rescheduled for September 22nd, and you kind of like that right now because if Tampa's playing well right now and the Yankees aren't that bad, some of these guys, maybe the day off helps them. Just get Judge to clear his head a little bit, and some of these guys to clear their head a little bit, and then face Tampa later on, and when maybe the Yankees are in better footing. So the Yankees, almost like dodge a bullet a little bit, and then the Yankees go on this road trip where I think they'll be able to stack up some wins, and I think some of these guys will be able to get going with the bats there, just facing a little lesser competition than they had been lately with Toronto and Tampa. And I know Toronto's obviously not been themselves since last year. They also a couple of games on the 500, but look, for the most part, that's a team that went to the 7th game of the World Series last year, and a lot of those pieces are still there. So if that record isn't great, it's still a tough matchup though. So I think things get easier for the Yankees, and I think they'll start to be able to dig into that 5.5 game gap against Tampa. So that's the episode. Cole back, good news. Everything clicking so far. Seems like he was healthy afterwards, no complaints. And just want to get him in the rotation for a while. And again, the Yankees don't have to rush Max Fried back. You both have Will Warren and Ryan Weathers. They had to sort of take those other 2 spots there. And there's hopefully now Rendon can start to get going. And Schlittler got smacked around a little bit against Toronto, not badly. Only gave him 2 runs. He got destroyed there. But he is a human being, by the way. But again, very excitable with this Yankee rotation. The first big step of Cole coming back is there. And now next is Fried there. And then again, that would be a great way to carry the Yankees for the rest of the season. Catch you next time.